Okay, so we'll start off tonight with two halachas of Lashon Hara. As we mentioned before, we say this for the refuah shlema of all of Am Yisrael, and amongst them Chagit Renana Bat Sarah. May she have a complete refuah shlema. Amen. From the time we were exiled, I don't know if I said these. You know what? I'm going to go to this one. The Torah so strictly forbids Lashon Hara because it awakens the Satan to raise accusations against the Jewish people. These accusations can even lead to untimely death. Number 2. Another reason Lashon Hara is so destructive is that when a person sullies his mouth with forbidden speech, it prevents his holy words of Torah and prayer from ascending to heaven. If many people constantly speak Lashon Hara, repeating the sin thousands of times over the course of their lives and making no commitment to refrain from it, this wreaks inestimable damage upon the higher worlds. Sat Hashem, be mitchazek, and not speaking Lashon Hara. Okay, this week's Parsha, Be'ezrat Hashem, Parshat Vayeira. We'll talk a little bit about what it means to really try to bring our Emuna one notch up, to be able to increase our Emuna by dispelling doubt, really believing that the Geula and that the Yeshua is going to eventually unfold in front of our eyes, and to hopefully be able to get a stronger sense that we should understand that when the uncertainty, those feelings, those thoughts of uncertainty arise, where they're coming from. We're going to talk in the beginning where they come from, and then when we know knowledge is power, and when we know where they're coming from, then maybe we could be able to reflect and understand how we can combat them and then really fortify our Emuna. So the idea of trust means that there isn't a trace of uncertainty or doubt in that which I know, read, listen, hear about, and such. Trust means 100% trust. I don't have even a pinhole of an opening where any other idea can enter and shake that trust. When we say trust, we say unshakable, right? Unshakable trust is 100%. What happens when I don't have that? Then doubt starts to creep in. And when doubt creeps in, it basically shakes my whole foundation. And even if it's just a little bit of doubt, even if it's just a moment, one moment in a whole year, that is enough to create and build on that little speck. It's enough to shake my entire foundation. Everything that I built, if there's just a hole of uncertainty, if there's a possibility of something that I'm unsure of, it could shake everything. My Emuna is in danger. And so this is what, I want to start off with the 4. I mentioned this on Motzei Shabbat, whoever was in Motzei Shabbat, but it basically, I spoke about the 4 different approaches to what could possibly serve as obstacles in terms of my level of Emuna, and what it means. If I understand, again, what can possibly harm my Emuna, then I'll be able to hopefully safeguard it more carefully. So these are 4 approaches that may stop me from trusting that which I hear, which I read about, which I'm told, which I even have heard about from way past when, and I was even at one point even reassured. But these are 4 things that could possibly shake my trust, and we're going to talk about it in particular tonight in terms of the Geula. How, and personally in my life, why is it that I feel so unsure that the Yeshua is coming? In terms of, again, collectively as a nation, and personally in my life, why don't I have this belief system inside of me? Why isn't it strong enough to be so solid that it'll ward off all my negative emotions? It'll be able to really create this solid fortress where I won't be anxious and I won't be scared and I won't be fearful and all the negative emotions that come from doubt, that arise from doubt. So the first idea is, I may know something very, very clearly, but if the external environment, if that which I am exposed to is telling me something different than that which I know, that could be a cause for me to have, a doubt that there's really going to be a geula for me, that there's going to be the geula at large. And we'll talk about it in a moment. We'll connect it to the Bnei Yisrael at the time when Moshe Rabbeinu, why are we talking about this now in conjunction to the Parsha? Because in the Parsha it says that Bnei Yisrael did not listen to Moshe Rabbeinu. In other words, they didn't trust that Moshe Rabbeinu was telling them, don't worry, the geula is coming. And that's why, we're focusing on this, because it's directly connected to what happened in this week's Parsha, that Bnei Yisrael didn't want to believe that the Yeshua was coming, didn't want to believe that the geula was coming. And so if we connect this, we could say, well, of course, look at them. Look at their environment. They were being oppressed. They were being whipped. They were being enslaved. And Moshe Rabbeinu is coming and saying and proclaiming, the geula is coming. And so automatically, when you have that conflict between that which you're being told and the environment that you're in, and there's a conflict, that could shake your trust. Number 2, sometimes we find ourselves in so much pain emotionally and this is part of the 4 Emuna button kind of concept, is that when I'm in so much pain, when my heart is aching, in so much pain, what happens to me is rationally, even if someone's telling me something, and it even makes sense to me, I cannot accept it. And this was something that Bnei Yisrael also were going through. They were in so much pain. They were so tired. They were in a place of such helplessness and hopelessness because they were actually physically and emotionally in pain. They felt abandoned. And so when we're in that place, we're in so much pain, our hearts are yelling out that we feel that we've been abandoned, that Hashem doesn't care for us, then no matter how much someone else would try to preach Emuna to us and say to us, don't worry, it's the descent for the purpose of ascent, and all that rationale, won't click. It simply won't click. And so that could be number 2. So first, again, we spoke about the visual obstacle, that which I see can stop me from actually trusting if it opposes to that which I'm being told. And number 2 is my heart, that which I feel. If I feel so much in pain, then rationally I cannot control, necessarily be a harder battle to control and take hold of my Emuna. Number 3, there are some people that also endure problems with Emuna because they are impatient. They're being told that the Yeshua is going to come. They're being told that in due time everything is going to work out. They're being told that the light is at the end of the tunnel. They're just not seeing it right now. But they have no patience to wait. Like, don't bother me with telling me that it's going to come. Don't tell me it's going to come around the corner and it's temporary. I don't want to hear it. I want it now. I want it now to appear right now. So it's this refusal, this denial to want to wait for the proper time for it to unravel in due time. We're not willing to sit out and wait it out and be patient enough for it to we're not even willing to even listen. Not even willing to listen because it's like, don't tell me what's going to be tomorrow. Like unfortunately, a lot of people who aren't observant, they'll be like, don't talk to me about the world to come. This is the world I'm in right now. Talk to me about this world. So they don't have the patience to know that there is a future. There is, long-term goals.
Is it maybe because they don't have a knowledge? It's not because they don't have a patience. They don't know.
You know what? A lot of people do know. A lot of people believe actually in the afterlife, but they still feel that they want to see something now. Give me a sign now. Give me something right now. They have to be shown it right now. They're not willing to forestall. It's a matter of being impatient. It's like any time that we suffer from a lack of patience, we all know that wherever we are, it's temporary. We understand that what goes around comes around. We understand that this reality is temporal and nothing is forever. We know that. We know that, and everyone knows that. But we, many times, a big cause of our own suffering is only because of the fact that we're not willing to wait and see what life may bring. We're not willing to see. And then when the time comes, I don't know how anyone else feels in this room, but I know myself that a lot of times I'm in the middle of a nisayon and I'm upset, and I think to myself, but I know when if it's, let's say, financial, I know when the money finally comes in, I'm going to be so upset at myself because of this moment. I'm going to be upset at myself because of this moment that I didn't have the foresight, I didn't have the control and discipline to wait. And I know, and it's like I know it's going to come because we understand that everything is secular. How does it?
Cyclical.
Cyclical. Well, I'm supposed to remember that word, really. So we understand that. And so we know that everything changes, that life is ever changing and nothing stays the same. But again, we lack that patience. And the problem is, again, let's just say, okay, I'm impatient. But the problem is that patience blocks me from wanting to even listen to the possibility of a geula coming. It's like, this could be even an offset from the 1 and 2. Like, I don't see it, it's not here. I don't have the ability to understand it because I'm in so much pain, so I don't even bother to listen because I'm impatient. I just want to see it right now. I'm not willing to invest. And by the way, that's a very wrong approach because, as we know, and I think we've mentioned this before, any logical, the logical way of planning life is that we're always planning for the future. We always understand the secular world always preaches that you need to save for long-term investment, right? For your pension time, whatever it is. Put, like we teach our children, right? Put the white dollar for a black day, right? Put it on the side. You never know when you're going to need it. And so there is that mentality when we choose to adhere to whatever's comfortable for us. Many people do understand. I do have to go through a certain period of time for the sake of the future. But for some reason, when it comes to spirituality, it's a little bit harder. For some reason, because it has to do totally with something that's not clear to me.
But everything what you want to get, you have to prepare for it. Even Shabbos, you don't get Shabbos just like that. You have to prepare for Shabbos.
Right.
You don't get the occupation. You have to learn for it.
Right.
You don't get anything. You cannot walk. You have to crawl first, right?
Right.
Everything you have to do something before.
Right. But the thing is that that's in the realms of this reality of my world. So I'm maybe a little bit more willing to wait for something that's shayach, that pertains to my particular world right here and now. But if it's something that you're telling me about, that as it is, it's something that no one came back from the world beyond and said that it's officially there or whatever, or even the stories that were, well, we can always make up excuses that it's not. And so it's easier for us to just say, listen, if you don't show me something here right now in my reality, I'm not willing to even listen to it. Not willing to listen to it. And the fourth reason, which I think is really the reason of the problem of our generation, which really speaks to us as a whole, is the idea of us being so busy that we don't even have the time to sit down and reflect and contemplate and ask the questions of what is the process here that's unraveling before me. Am I sitting down and contemplating the thought that everything in life is a process? That everything, exactly like what Bako is saying, that do I understand that everything in life always points to one thing following the next, one thing happening as a result of something else. And if I can logically contemplate, the idea is to sit and reflect about life. That every day, and this is, the big behind the whole teaching of Rabbi Nachman, of the Hidbodedut, is to quiet down the noise that's around me. Because noise is resistance. Noise is like a static in the line of my direct line of the satellite. The messages aren't coming in clearly. That's the noise, that's the outer realm. That's constantly confusing me. And it doesn't allow me to be able to sit down. What is Yeshuva Dat? It's Lashevet, to sit down. What are we sitting down? What are we seating? We're seating our dot. What is dot? We're seating down that intimate knowledge and connection. It's Dot is a level of Emuna that it's not just here, but it's actually there, where it affects my emotions. It affects all that I do. It affects the way that I react to situations. It affects everything. Dot is intimacy. What does it say? Adam yada et Chava. What does it mean? Adam knows Chava. It means that he was intimate with her. He knew her in such a way that there was no doubt. He knew everything about her. And we have to try to achieve that level. And the only way we can achieve that level in Emuna is to sit down and take the time to reflect and contemplate, to learn Torah, to reread the sources, reread the scriptures, reread the promises that Hashem made to us, and understand that everything is a process. I'm in the middle of a series of events. I'm in the middle of history. I'm not at the end. And if I'm not at the end, I can't see the end. And so I haven't seen the whole thing, played out in front of me. I just see piece by piece by piece. And so these are the four things that in essence comes in between us for our lives, between us being able to achieve full Emuna, and also that stopped Bnei Yisrael from really listening. When it says in the Torah that they didn't listen to Hashem, it means that they didn't really internalize that what Moshe was promising them, that the Geula was imminent, it is going to come, and it's just be patient, wait, think about it, remember, just look around you, don't necessarily believe everything that you see, surpass that pain, don't pay attention to the fact that right now you're in pain. Put that, if you can, on the side, and remember, listen to what I'm telling you. It's just a matter of time. It's going to pass. And they weren't willing to listen to it, everyone for whatever reason. And we may find ourselves sometimes in this reason, caught up with this reason. Sometimes we're just, the externals are telling us a different message. Sometimes it's our heart that's overpowering us. Sometimes it's, I'm too busy. I don't even have the time to think whether the Geula is coming or not. I'm just too busy just trying to survive. Every single one of us can find the reasons and one part or point in our lives why I'm being stopped from being able to achieve full Emuna in Hashem. And this is Mitzrayim. This is the essence of Galut. This is the inner Paro that's talking to every single one of us and that's constantly enslaving us. Is that Paro, that's the bottom line out of all these four approaches. There's only one thing that Paro really wants, and that's to deny us of the ability to think hopefully, to think of the future, to think that there is a Yeshua, to remember why we're here, and to remember that Hashem is bringing us and leading us through an entire process of history. And that is the Paro inside of us, that constant nagging voice, invasive talk, constantly invading inside of our minds and in our hearts, trying to control and deny us of the basic human right. The basic human right that every single one of us has is the hope for a better future. Every single person has the right to feel that, unless they're in slavery. If we're in slavery, that is being taken away from us. But if we want to achieve true freedom, it's a matter of surpassing the slave mentality, transcending beyond it, and believing that, again, it's temporary and that eventually, in due time, everything will be revealed and everything will come to light. And so that is our choice. We've said this a number of times. That is our choice. We can choose to take ourselves out of exile. We have that choice. It all depends on whether or not I'm conscious enough to know that I'm currently in a state of exile. I currently, right now, if I am not in an Emuna perspective, in a state of Emuna, I'm in exile. I have to know that Paro is whipping me at this moment. He's oppressing me, he's whipping me, he's denying me of my freedom to think, that this is, in fact, a temporary reality that I'm living in right now. And so it's important for us, in particular, when we find ourselves in these parshiot, where we're going and living through every Shabbat, we're reading about the slavery and the mentality of slavery and what Bnei Yisrael were experiencing. It's incumbent upon us to understand that we have the ability right now, as the parshiot unfold, to take ourselves out of slavery. By understanding what Bnei Yisrael were going through, we, as being a part of history, of Jewish history, we're going through it as well. And so we have the ability to be able to take ourselves out of the slavery. Mitzrayim is depicted and likened to a state of what's called kotzer ruach, a shortness of breath. And why is that? So Chazal teach us that what happens when somebody is in a state of anxiety, panic, negativity, sadness, frustration, all the negative emotions, anger, what happens? We start to pant, right? Shortness of breath. I can't catch my breath. I'm panicking. I'm having an anxiety attack. What happens? So listen to this amazing insight. How was Adam HaRishon first brought out into this world? It's written in Sefer Bereshit, where? Napach be'apo, right? Chaim. Hashem breathed into Adam HaRishon the breath of life. Life force, as we know it, as described in the Torah, is a breath, so to speak, that Hashem puffed into the nostrils of Adam HaRishon that gave him life. What that means is that every time that we breathe, our breathing is an expression, an intake of godly energy, of force and connection to Hashem. And we could see this very clearly, because if I'm in a state, maybe we want to move those flowers because I feel like I'm not able to see so many people. Gorgeous flowers, but I could see the spectrum. Yeah, now I could see you too. Great. So what happens is when I'm in a shortness of breath, and think about it physically, what's happening to me? I'm going like I can't catch my breath, which means I can't catch Hashem. I can't physically catch the breath, the life force that Hashem instills in me. Every moment that I am not breathing in oxygen, what's happening? I'm losing my source of energy, my source of life, my power to my connection to life is essentially severed. So when I'm in a place of a lack of emuna, and I'm panting, and I'm not breathing deeply, I'm not inhaling the breath, the oxygen of life, what happens is essentially physically I am expressing that I am severing myself off from Hashem. The opposite is when I take a deep sigh. Right? What do all these meditative practices, aromatherapy, what does it all teach us? Essentially, it's teaching us, take a deep breath. Close your eyes, right? The reason, why do we close our eyes? Because we want to close out the reality that's causing us to be in this state of anxiety. We're essentially disconnecting from the external and looking inside. Fact is, an amazing insight is they say, how is it, and I think I've said this, but this was a long time ago, so I feel like we should say this again. When a person receives a bit of bad news, what's almost the first gesture that they do? Like this. They close their eyes. They go like this. Or they shut their eyes. It's a sense of almost disbelief. You close your eyes. Rabbi Nachman teaches us an amazing, amazing insight. What essentially, it's an instinct almost that we do. Why is it? And why do I grab my head? Why don't I go like this to hug myself? Why don't I go like this in the fetal position that I feel security? Why do I grab my head? Because I understand that my mind is now feeding me anti-Emuna messages. I understand. I'm trying to take control over the thoughts that are coming into my mind. I'm grabbing hold of it, and I'm thinking to myself, no, it can't be. Hashem promised that it's good, life is good, He's good. I'm seeing the opposite. So I go to try to control it by grabbing my head and trying to seize the thoughts and trying to actually squeeze them, like take them out of my head, because I understand that it goes against the fiber of my being, the fiber and essence of Emuna Hashem, that everything that Hashem does is good. Why do I close my eyes? Why do we close our eyes in Shema Yisrael? And how does this help us to be able to now grasp the reality, the bitter reality that we're faced? When I hear a bit, someone, okay, you're not supposed to say I. When someone hears a bit, the oivim, the enemies of Am Yisrael, when they hear a bit of bad news, why do you close your eyes? We close our eyes because it helps us now look inside. What does it mean? Again, I'm shutting out, in essence, my external reality. I'm looking inside. I'm focusing on the fact, remembering that there's something going on inside. What is Emuna? It's pnimiut. It's looking inside. It's not paying attention to the externals. It's understanding that there's a deeper, bigger picture than that which I see. So when I close my eyes, I'm going into that deep, bigger picture place. And somehow or another, when I'm able to now turn inward and remember why and who and what's running the course of my life, that it's really Hashem, when I open up my eyes, I'm essentially opening up to a different reality. I'm now looking at the difficulty from refreshed vision, from the vision of Emuna. So that's why a lot of times what we end up doing is we close our eyes, and then somehow or another when we open up our eyes, even if it's just for a split moment, I'm able to recollect my thoughts for just a moment. Why? Because now I've infused the reality with Da'at. I've infused it with Emuna, and although it may be temporary, because a lot of times people still find themselves, of course, in pain. It's not a permanent solution, and the reason why it's not a permanent solution, it's because from the darkness of reality, I have to keep working on seeking Emuna. That is the purpose of why we're here, is to constantly remind ourselves and infuse our dark reality with light of Emuna. And so, but the idea is it's a lesson for us to understand that when I close my eyes, when I could somehow, some way, and it's a good exercise to do, is when we find ourselves in a place of darkness, just close our eyes, breathe in, and as I'm breathing in, to connect again to the source of my life, the life force, that nishimat chaim that Hashem gave me, and to inhale life, to be able to absorb the life once again, and through the closing of my eyes and the inhaling, to be able to connect once again to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to be able to deal with the circumstances in an easier fashion. So that's a very, very important, insight to learn. Very interesting. It says, and this is one of the problems that Bnei Yisrael had to deal with. It was written about the Avot, and also the people that they will serve, meaning Am Yisrael, that they will serve in Mitzrayim, I will judge. Now, in other words, Hashem is saying that He will eventually judge the people that Bnei Yisrael will serve. And afterwards, they will go forth with great wealth. So, the Jewish people, Bnei Yisrael, are looking at this, understanding that the Avot were promised, because Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, I'm telling you, you're going to get out of this mess. And they're listening to this and they're saying, what? It's like unimaginable that right now I'm being whipped from the Mitzrayim. Blood is splattering all over the place. How can you tell me not only that we're going to leave this place, but we're going to leave with great wealth? And I remember once hearing, I think it was from Rabbi Rieti Shlita, that he said, what makes a prophecy that much more believable is when it's actually told over, it sounds absolutely ridiculous. It sounds unimaginable and unattainable. The more ridiculous that it would be possible to imagine that we can attain, that it will actually happen, the greater the prophecy. So in other words, if I say to you, you know what? it's going to rain in the next half an hour. I'm prophesizing it's going to rain in the next half an hour. But a half an hour ago, it was sort of drizzling a little bit. So it's not so great when I'm prophesizing, right? But if in Israel in the summer, it usually doesn't rain, and I'm going to prophesize that it's going to rain tonight, if it comes true, wow, I'm going to be held very up high in your eyes. And that's a prophet. Oh, we had a prophet living here, giving us an Emuna lecture. That's amazing. So the more crazy, per se, it sounds, and unattainable it sounds, according to natural law, the greater the prophecy. This was absolutely ridiculous. Not only are we being enslaved and we have no say, and Paro, who's a little midget, is actually, in charge of the entire existence, as it's like it was in America from that perspective. But now you're telling me I'm going to even walk away with great wealth, and at the end, that's exactly what happened. But the idea is that that's why they weren't willing to listen, because it sounded to them like, how could it possibly be? Again, this was one of the obstacles, seeing the externals and saying, there's no way. It just doesn't make sense. And this is what happens to us many times, is I look at my reality and I think to myself, I have a $50,000 debt. There's no way I'm ever going to be able to pay this back. How can I possibly pay down a $50,000 check with a 4,000 shekel check, paycheck coming in every month? There's no way. It's just not going to happen. And that's the Paro talking to me. Now, again, I'm not supposed to believe in miracles, but the idea, and we spoke about this, I think I spoke about it with Leah, the idea of kavana, if I want to think about kavana, in my tefillah, in focusing my emuna, what is kavana really? Kavana is really understanding that Hashem is all powerful, and that it doesn't matter what I'm seeing in front of me. It makes no difference if it appears that it's impossible and unattainable. Kavana means from the word kivun, lekaven, to direct. When I want to have kavana in my tefillah or kavana in doing a mitzvah, I have to remember who I'm directing it towards. Who am I directing my tefillah to? Who am I doing this mitzvah for? And if I understand that I am directing it towards Hashem, Melech Malchei HaMelachim Akadosh Baruch Hu, the King of the Kings, the master planner, the big boss, the one and only. If I can put myself in that reality, that is kavana. And we all think that kavana is these emotions, these gushing tears, this heartfelt cry, any emotion. We feel that kavana is emotion. Kavana is not emotion. Emotion comes as a result of me directing my tefillah or my deed or my action, whatever I'm doing, with the presence, with the mindset that I know that I am in front of Hashem. I am in front of an all-powerful master of the world that can do anything for me. And that evokes from me all kinds of emotions. I'm more consoled, I'm more comforted, I'm in a joyful state now because I realize that it's not hopeless. I realize that I'm not helpless. I realize that there is hope. I can anticipate it, and I should anticipate it, and I should expect it. I should expect that Hashem is going to save me and uplift me and bring me to my own personal geula. And in essence, that's what Hashem was trying to teach every single one of us through bringing about the plagues. And that is what Hashem today is trying to bring. We have plagues today. There are plagues today. And we are unfortunately so in one of those 4 directives that we just spoke about in the beginning. Either we're so busy or we're so emotionally drained, whatever it is, that we're not even paying attention to the plagues that are actually, a part of our lives. And just to name a few of them: the melting polar ice caps, Katrina, Sandy, oil spills, extinction of species, dead fish that's just, for no reason, scattered amongst the shores that we see, all kinds of droughts and extreme weather conditions. These are all plagues. Why? Because plagues in essence is a proclamation. What is a plague? A plague is a proclamation from Hashem, basically communicating to the world that Adam, we, mankind, we have shifted from doing his will. Adam is from the word Adama, meaning that Adam, man, is very closely related to Adamah, to the land, to earth. When we don't act bishlemut, when we are not adhering to Hashem's will, in essence, what does the Adamah do that we're so intimately connected to? It spits us out. The natural happenings and occurrences and disasters seem to suddenly appear. And that's really what happened in Mitzrayim. When we don't do Hashem's will, when we are not living with Emuna, when we don't see Hashem in every aspect of our lives, essentially, the land underneath us, the ground that we step on, the land that we inhabit, essentially spits us up. It throws us up. That's really what natural disasters are all about. It's when the land repels mankind. It's saying, you're no longer connected to me because you're not living to the essence of what you were created for. And so that is essentially what a plague is. And in today's world, we can see that. We can see all the natural disasters. So it doesn't come particularly, although there are many things that occur in the media. I saw ones that I think a Chinese river turned red, right? Did you see that?
Yeah.
No? Yeah. A Chinese river, they said it was because of toxins and the algae and it turned it red. And they come up with all these great scientific reasons. But the bottom line is, we saw the flies. I even saw at one point that there were, not locusts. Locusts we had one time, I think, here in Israel. But there were flies or something else, I don't know, and whatever.
In USA there were birds falling from sky dead. Highway, yeah.
Okay.
But lately there was a shofar something all over the world. What does that mean? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows that. Nobody understands. For all we know, it is. For all we know, it is that it is the real, the real reality of the shofar preparing us. But in essence, we're seeing that. So it doesn't have to necessarily be in particular to that which was, but plague. Every time we hear of a natural disaster, this volcano in Iceland that shut down half of Europe for a couple of days. All of these things are essentially plagues. They're essentially our everyday plagues that Hashem is saying to us, you're paying too much attention to your personal peril. You're enslaved right now, and you need to know that I run the world, and the Geula is coming. Don't look at what's going on. Don't be enslaved to anything else.
Is that message for everybody?
Everybody.
Because it's not going to be interpreted that way.
It's
as religious Jews, we do think of something happens in Thailand, we look at our own situation to see how what we're doing, but
tsunami in
globally,
Japan has nothing to do with us.
Has everything to do with us. Everything.
But the average person who's
Right.
not religious is not going to think that way. So
Maybe they do.
if there's an earthquake in China, what's
Well,
the average person
let's go with what Shoshana is saying.
Maybe the Chinese people think,
Yeah,
we need to change.
the end. Right, the end is coming. Don't. You find all even the Gentiles of the nation.
It's a global message you're saying. It's for everybody to take.
It's for everyone. Well, B'nai Noach also have they're not doing what they're supposed to either. We have to understand that. The Gentiles have their avoda. They have to keep their 7 mitzvot Noach. If they're not keeping it, it's bad as well. They're not doing Hashem's will. They're also going to be spit at. They're also going to be thrown up. It's just part. Listen. The bottom line is, in order for any society, any society to flourish, there are rules. We have to understand that there are rules in this world. We are here to abide by the rules, and we all want freedom, but our definition of freedom is very, very different than what we've been fed. The Jewish definition of freedom is not to be enslaved to your natural impulses. That's what the definition of freedom of freedom is in terms of the Jewish perspective. Don't go and feel that you have to fulfill every whim, every impulse, every natural instinct. You don't have to go with it. There's the idea of what is freedom? It means that I'm in control. That's what really freedom is. It means I am in control. I can control. That's freedom. If I'm not in control, then in essence, I'm a slave, right?
The secular definition is the complete opposite.
That's what I'm saying to you. We've been fed falsehood and nourishkeit for all these years, and we think that green is blue and blue is green. If somebody's going to tell me that I'm looking at a black cup, I tend to believe it, because this is what we've been fed all along. But freedom means is that I had the courage to take control. I am in control, and Hashem's saying you are in control. You're not in control of your reality, but you're in control of the way you respond to your reality. That's control. I can choose. I can choose to see my life with, roses that have, by the way, some thorns, or, oh my gosh, look at all those thorns, and this may be a little rose here and a little, how do I look at it?
It just occurred to me, not that I can judge anything, but the whole thing that just happened in Paris before what happened to the Jews was this attack on freedom of speech.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, what is freedom of speech? What is their definition of freedom? Like what you're saying.
That is the essence of America. The Western culture is freedom. Freedom. But they look at it as freedom to be able to express and give in to every impulse that I have. I want to do this. I want to walk around half naked. I could do it. It's free. I'm free. I want to say what I want to say. It's free. That means you're not in control. That means something else is controlling you. Hashem says, no, you can be in control. And I am going to, we look at the mitzvahs as restrictive pathways. We have to understand that the essence of the Torah are pathways for us to be able to seize control. Seize control in controlling our reality. I can change myself, and by changing myself, in essence, change my reality. That Hashem is just showing us a path, the correct pathway to be able to, yes, be in control of our reality. By changing ourselves, I, in essence, change my reality. I change the way I see it. And by the way I respond spiritually, I can also actually change my material reality. The more elevated I am, the more in sync I am with my purpose, the more in tuned I am with what my tafkid is and fulfilling my soul's mission. That means that Hashem may have, shower a little bit more compassion on me. He may change my material reality to sort of coincide, because as I change, my reality and my physical reality change, and my spirituality changes my material. It could certainly have that, uplifting, momentum. But I have the ability to change. I have to make that first change. I am in control of that.
I relate this to what you said before about the 4 different types of people. I really think that there's a fifth, because the fifth type of person is the person who just doesn't care. And there are people who want to give into the Yetzer, whatever that is. They don't really care about being spiritual.
Do you really think that they don't care, or do you think that it's really a matter of them just being in a reality where they're just not interested? I think that really fits more into that secular mode of, this is my life and this is my only reality. Why would you not care about what's going to be in the future if you don't believe in the future? Right? You don't believe in the future. That's why you don't care. That's why you don't. You're sort of like.
But then you'd be searching. You would be living a gashmistic life and going according to your Yetzer, whatever that is. But you'd be searching for something. I mean, there are people that just don't want to know about the search. Don't tell me too much, because I'm gonna have to change my life, and they don't want to know about it. And those people, it seems like they'll stay where they are. It doesn't seem like they'll be able to make that.
Right.
They live the day, and
you're right.
They will leave, and tomorrow will be and that's it.
Right.
That's the reality.
I think that comes really from a place of being just impatient. Like, don't talk to me about what's going to be tomorrow. I'm living here right now. I don't see anything. Nothing is really showing in front of me right now. Don't tell me tomorrow, 60s and the 70s and the 80s, what was, it's like now. Just show me now. So it sort of works into that third category. Yeah.
But even if the Emuna is strong, and sometimes my husband says something that I don't believe will happen. It doesn't matter something that people. He said your Emuna is not so strong. I do believe, but I don't really see it is going to happen.
Right.
I don't know.
But that's the Emuna, is when I can no longer comprehend it. Now the externals are no longer giving me the proof to that which I believe. So now I have to go in. I have to go inward to the things that that were transmitted to me from generation to generation, all the promises, and this is what I'm going to talk about right now, is all the promises that Hashem made to us. And this is where Emuna falls in, is it doesn't, rationally, like we're saying, rationally I don't see anything that's going to support my reason to believe. But I have to then go back and say, but wait a minute, there are promises there. There is history that Hashem made promises. Some of them have been fulfilled because the time had came to fulfill them.
Mashiach,
And
the same thing. The Yemenites were being told for 2,000 years
Right.
to go to Israel.
Okay, so,
And 2,000 years, some gave up, some really came. Now we have promises.
right.
Mashiach,
So let's
to receive
look. I'm
those.
seeing this beautiful cake, which I'm very eager to have a piece of. Thank you, Eileen, so much. By the way, thank you for hosting us and putting out this gorgeous spread, Eileen. But I'm in the middle of making a cake, and I'm whipping up the batter, and I actually I put a story out at one time. It's called, what is it called? Eggs. I don't remember what it was called. Anyway, it's a story of I'm in the middle of making the cake, and I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking to myself, but they said it's going to be a cake. And all I see is a bunch of glub, like a batter, like this liquid in a bowl. But I'm in the middle of making the cake. Wait a minute. I have to still now put it in the oven. I have to wait the proper time. The same thing here. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be a geula because I'm not seeing it right now, right? I have to understand, again, this is where the impatience lies. Is I'm like, okay, all the signs are here. Everyone keeps talking about it, but it's not here. But wait a minute, I'm still just mixing the cake. Wait a minute, I have to now put it in the oven. It has still some more stuff. It has to still be finished. And Hashem hasn't finished the process yet. So again, that just because I am not witnessing it right now, it doesn't mean that it's not going to be. Right? It's not everything that I see is what it is. That's totally, again, Western culture thinking, right? Greek thinking. So let me just say this one extra point on the Parsha that I think really sort of closes the whole idea of us understanding that Hashem has different ways of expressing and bringing about and fulfilling the promises that He makes and He made to us and made to the Avot HaKadoshim in due time. And I just want to take the first opening words of this week's Parsha, right? It says, Vayedaber Elokim el Moshe, Vayomer elav, Ani Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Vayeira el Avraham, el Yitzchak, ve'el Yaakov, ve'el Shaddai, Ushmi Yud Kei Vav Kei Hashem, lo nodati lahem. Very interesting pasuk, the beginning of the Parsha. It says, look how many ways Hashem is naming Himself in this one pasuk. First Elokim, then Yud Kei Vav Kei, and then Kel Shaddai. So I want to talk about, in particular, these three different names of Hashem and why, and just talk just for a moment of the difference between the three names and why all three names are in this pasuk and what does it mean, lo nadati lem, I didn't show them. What didn't I show? What is Hashem saying to Moshe Rabbeinu? What didn't He show to the Avot? What part was missing there? And what does it mean that now maybe Moshe is going to be seeing? What aspect of Hashem? What angle is Bnei Yisrael going to be zocha, going to merit to see that the Avot did not see? So first it starts off again, Vayedaber Elokim. What is Elokim? When the Torah names Hashem in the name Elokim, it refers to Hashem being a mighty ruler, the master of the universe, all-powerful. The concept of judgment is usually pertains to when we hear the word Elokim. The idea is that Elokim is the source of all physicality. That's Elokim. Then you have Yud Kei Vav Kei. Yud Kei Vav Kei is the most highest, deepest name of Hashem. It refers to Hashem who's compassionate, Hashem who is ever-giving, the sense of Hashem being hidden and being beyond time. That is, so the transcendent part, so to speak, of Hashem is Yud Kei Vav Kei. And then you have the Kel Shaddai. Now, Kel Shaddai is in essence two different names of Hashem put together. You have Kel, El, right? And then you have Shaddai. Kel refers to a God that is kind. His kindness is endless. So it's El Harachamim. Whenever we hear El, it means kindness without end. Shaddai, on the other hand, opposes that. Shaddai comes from the word dai, enough. Shaddai means, whenever we see Shaddai, it means that Hashem is putting boundaries. There is boundaries to that which He's creating. So, for instance, it's written in Bereshit that when Hashem saw that the creation was unfolding, at one point He said to the creation, die. He told to the oceans, die. This is your gvul. You're not allowed to pass. How come the oceans, the waves don't go further in? How is it? Who's teaching? Who's telling the waters to stop at the shore? So it comes from that aspect of Shaddai, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to the oceans, die. Right here is your gvul. This is your boundary. You're not allowed to cross over here. And that's why the waves seem to have this almost line of, okay, here's water and here's the dry land. So when we see El Shaddai, it means that there's basically kindness, but within a confined environment as nature, such as nature. That's what El Shaddai means. It means that Hashem is kind, but it doesn't shatter nature. It's all done within the realm of natural occurrences. Okay? Why is this important? Because Hashem in essence is saying in this pasuk that I did not show the face of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei to the Avot. I only showed them El Shaddai. What does that mean? It means that the Avot, Rashi explains, that the Avot in essence were theoretically, they knew that there's such an aspect of Hashem called Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. There is an infinite compassionate part to Hashem, but they only knew it in theory. They did not witness to see the promises that were told to them in their lifetime. They did not witness the fulfillment of the promises. The Avot were promised that the Jewish people would in fact be exiled, but would also be redeemed, that they would grow into a great nation. They did not see it. They were just told it in theory. And so that's why Moshe Rabbeinu is being told by Hashem, I'm telling you that the Avot only knew me in the form of El Shaddai. They didn't know me in the form of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. And he starts it off by saying, I'm talking to you in the form of Elohim. In other words, Hashem was somewhat angry in a harsh tone. He's telling to Moshe Rabbeinu, don't question me. I'm telling you that there are different angles which I illuminate my essence and my interaction and associate with my creation. Sometimes I come in the form of El Shaddai, sometimes I come in the form of Elohim, sometimes I illuminate the pathway through the form of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, but it's all coming from the same source. It's just that in due time, everyone will see the fulfillment of my promises at their time. So, what was the lesson? What was Moshe Rabbeinu being taught? He was basically being taught that at the time when the Avot were living, Hashem didn't interact with nature in such a personal, direct way. He didn't overturn nature. There was a flood. Okay, so it was a flood. The form of destruction came about in a natural way, right? Everything that was done during the time of the Avot could be explained by nature. But when it came to the time of the redemption, which the redemption of Mitzrayim is going to be as just the way that it's going to, Bezrat Hashem, come to our nation, in our generation, Hashem said, you're going to see a totally different part of me now. In fact is, now we're actually coming to a new time in history, because Am Yisrael is now going to witness me in the form and in the pathway of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, which means that they're going to see my compassionate hand. They're going to see that justice, that I am compassionate. I will serve. This justice will be served to the enemies. Those that have oppressed them will be punished. It just didn't happen in the time of the Avot. and this is a lesson for us, and this ties into exactly what we spoke about in the beginning, is just because I don't see my Yeshua, just because I don't, everything around me rationally, visually, in my mind, I'm busy with life, I'm too tired to think about it, I don't understand it, I don't see it, all those different messages, that parallel that's speaking to me all the time, trying to put me in denial that there's no hope, that I'm going to be enslaved to this reality for the rest of my life. There's nothing's going to change it. And it doesn't matter what Hashem promised me. I don't see it. It's not going to happen. Reality is telling me something totally different. I have to know that it could be that Hashem is right now coming to the form, coming to me through the pathway of El Shaddai. Right now, He's just going to interact with me without shattering nature. He's going to bring about my Yeshua right now in a very hidden sort of a way, without coming out with outright miracles. But that doesn't mean that at one point, when the promises really will come to the full fruition of the essence of what Hashem said will actually come and be revealed, it'll come in the form of Yud Kei Vav Kei, and at that point, all of my natural way of life will totally be overturned. It'll be totally, miraculously be overturned, and I'll be able to see the Yeshua. It'll come. So it's a matter of us understanding that in due time everything comes. Everything turns around. And the Geula does come. And sometimes we see it. It depends on where our challenges are and where our difficulties are and what pathway Hashem has put us. Sometimes Hashem says, I can't reveal that aspect of me, of Yud Kei Vav Kei right now. It's not the right time. But the main thing for us to understand is no matter what, it's still Hashem. Hashem is still with us, even if it comes in another form or in another pathway, or it's being illuminated from a different angle, it's still coming from the same essence. It's still Hashem. And that is what keeps us going. That is what the real answer to us in terms of us being able to strengthen our Emuna is to understand that there are different aspects, and no matter where it's actually coming from, I just have to always remember that Hashem is with me. Hashem is with us. Hashem is always with us. By the way, if we're already talking about Hashem's names, whenever we see the name Anochi, it means that part of Hashem that comes in the form of total hiddenness, that I won't even recognize that it's from Hashem. I won't even see and feel Hashem's presence in this particular instance in my life. And that's why when it says Anochi imo b'tzara, it means I'm with you no matter where you are in your sorrow, but guess what? I'm coming in the form of such hiddenness that you won't even know that I'm here. But I'm telling you, I am here. And that's what we have to internalize, is no matter what, it's always Hashem. It's just that it comes from different angles. And not to always really believe that which we see, and that's what makes sense to us, which, you were saying. It's to go beyond. It's to transcend and to understand that Hashem is, again, Kavana. Hashem is the master. Hashem is the one in charge, and He's the one that guides us, and to always feel that we can put ourselves in that reality and that presence. Be'ezrat Hashem, that is the key. Bitachon is the key to the redemption. Be'ezrat Hashem will be zochet to be able to really see it unfolding in front of us. B'mehera v'yameinu, amen.